I was wrong about lean gains. Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and I thought I would chat with you guys and gals a little bit about this today. But a quick reminder, if you would please click like down below. If you are not subscribed or following me yet, please do so. And on top of that, I would greatly appreciate it if you would leave me a comment down below. Thank you so much. This is a topic to where I've had to eat crow on a number of times, and people have gotten really upset with me over it. That's been the strange thing. I used to say years ago, trying to maintain or make only lean gains or staying at the same body weight and recomping caused wheel spinning, and I believe that because I bought into the traditional stuff like we all did, of bulking and cutting being necessary. And I pushed this for years. But in the last couple of years, 2-3-ish years, I've kind of said, hey guys, I've noticed the longer I coach and I work with weight class athletes that I don't think that's really the case. Man, people got upset. Oh, you're flip-flopping. Oh, and here's the other issue too. Then all these studies started coming out on it, and other coaches realizing the studies in the literature show that we really don't have to bulk to maximize muscle growth. And here's the thing. That's a case where if you are an honest person and you have any integrity, you step back and go, you know what? I said the opposite for years. I adamantly pushed the opposite for years, but my own real world experience as a coach, the data coming out in the scientific literature is all disagreeing with that position. I've been proven wrong. Okay. And here's what I would say to people. And this is always the thing I would say. Would you rather listen to someone who treats everything they tell you like religious dogma? Or would you rather someone who steps back, puts their ego to the side and says, you know what, guys, I was wrong. And if I'm going to give you the best advice that I possibly can, I have to go with the weight of the evidence. I mean, if it's real evidence, a lot of exercise science studies are trash. Nutrition tends to be quite a bit better as a field, But would you rather someone say, hey, I was wrong, disregard what I said before, here's better information, and what I said wasn't necessarily useless, but it also wasn't necessary. You can absolutely do this other thing. It does work. I was wrong when I said that you only can do A, okay? That B doesn't work, that actually it turns out B works just as well. And in some cases may even be better. Again, someone who wants to stay leaner, someone who doesn't want to deal with the muscle loss or the cuts and everything else. Yeah. Like, who would you rather listen to? Like, who's going to give you better advice? The person who says, you know what, I've been proven wrong and I have to change my position. Or the person who arrogantly says, I've never been wrong. I'm always right. I've been right for 20 years and nothing is ever wrong, And it's based on weight of evidence. I do get people who do that. They're like, but you argue that with stuff. I'm like, no, if there's 37 studies saying something and all the researchers say we can't find any evidence to the contrary and there's a myth that the contrary is true, yeah, I'm gonna clown you for it because it's not factual. And there's a lot of nutrition stuff like that. I will say that online because you guys are being ridiculous. It's not a question of opinion. It's a question of you don't have any evidence to support your goofball position. That's a problem. Because this chiropractor who wrote a book on nutrition who had lost his license to practice said it. Well, great. That doesn't stand up to 37 nutritional science studies in the metabolic ward. Not how it works. But back over to the point, I digress. I had to change my position because the accumulated evidence shows. In fact, I'll go so far as to say we don't really have evidence that a calorie surplus is required at all for someone who's not lean, to not just to gain muscle, but to maximize muscle. Like, we know a calorie surplus isn't required to gain muscle. So the idea that you're going to spin your wheels at maintenance is ludicrous. That's a ludicrous idea. Because we have dozens of recomposition studies. We've had recomposition studies for 20, 30 years. Right? So let's be clear on that. That's not even the case. That is not even in question. we've always argued recomp is slow, not that it doesn't occur. It's been proven repeatedly to occur even in advanced lifters in the lab over and over and over. All right, the question is, can we maximize growth without it? We don't have evidence that someone who's like 14, 15, 18, 20% body fat, well, especially you start hitting 20% body fat, I can't find a single shred of evidence that would suggest they need a surplus to gain muscle. They could recomp just as fast as if they bulked. Okay. Leaner people, we may need, this is where we get into the debate, we may need a small surplus. But that's what the evidence has been showing. It's a smaller surplus than we thought it was. It's literally something like a 3%. Let that sink in for a minute. Not a 10%. Studies comparing 10% versus 3%, a 10% was way more fat. You're still just gaining fat. A 3%, we're talking about 100 extra calories over your maintenance. And I think what people forget with this maintenance thing, they're forgetting your maintenance calories includes your recovery from training and muscle growth. Okay, we need to be clear. All right, that is part of your maintenance. If you are training harder and in an anabolic state, your maintenance is going to go up. It requires calories to build muscle. Okay. So you're going to need more calories if you were training hard enough to build muscle just to maintain. So keep that in context. It's not like, well, I started training harder and, and trying to eat the same calories. Well, you're going to be in a deficit now. But there's plenty of evidence that if the deficit is kept small and the training is really dialed in, fatigue management's dialed in, protein is high, that you gain muscle even in a deficit. People cut too fast. Just like they bulk too fast and get fat, they cut too fast. Okay? They cut too fast. Again, therein lay the problem. Cutting way too fast. So then you're losing muscle and strength. If you just cut really slow, it is literally possible to gain muscle in a small deficit. This has been documented in the lab with DEXA scans and MRIs. It's not a lot of muscle, but it's something. So in other words, you could be gaining muscle all the time, whether you're bulking, cutting, or recomping. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative. I'll talk to you guys and gals next time.